Welcome to High Octane Leadership with Donald Thompson. This season, we're diving deeper with more solo episodes, where I'll share the experiences that have led to recognition by EY, Forbes, Fast Company, and others. Not as a boast, but as milestones on my entrepreneurial path. From growing multi-million-dollar firms to successful business exits and building high-performance teams with a global perspective. I'll reveal the insights and strategies from my journey and share them with you so that we can win together. Alongside these solo episodes, we'll have industry visionaries and thought leaders, and we'll explore effective leadership. Ready to empower your leadership journey with real success stories? Let's embark on this transformational journey together. In this episode, I'm talking with Jackie Ferguson, co-founder and vice president of content, programming, and products at the Diversity Movement. Jackie is the best-selling author of the Inclusive Language Handbook and hosts the top-ranking Diversity Beyond the Checkbox podcast. Her impactful work earned her a spot on the 2023 Inc. Female Founders 200 list and garnered awards from Fast Company and other globally recognized publications. Thanks for joining me on the show, Jackie.
Thanks for having me, Donna. I'm excited to get to interview you again. So we're going to talk about goal setting and accomplishment. And Don, we set goals all the time. Big ones, small ones. We make New Year's resolutions. We create vision boards. We recite affirmations. We get books and calendars and journals. And still so often we fall short in achieving those goals. But there are some people that are very good at setting goals and achieving them. Why is it that so many of us set goals but don't achieve them? What gets in our way, and how do we set goals that we can successfully accomplish?
Well, one, thanks for the question, and I'm really excited about this topic because everyone feels the pain you're describing, right? Because who wants to set a goal to not hit it? Who wants to set themselves up to be disappointed, right? You set goals because you have this mental model of what it will feel like to achieve it, whether it's losing weight, getting promoted, starting a family, whether it is doubling your income, whatever those goals are, there's a motivation mechanism that gets you excited about it. And then here are a couple of things to answer your question that I see people fall short, but it's fixable, right? And so one of the things that people struggle with is they set a goal with the absence of the obstacles they know they're going to face. So instead of thinking through the process of achievement, they think through the process of setting the goal singularly. And so let me give a very, very quick example, right? And we'll use one that really can relate to everyone. Let's just say you're looking to lose a few pounds in the new year. And you say, I'm going to go to the gym. So you think about setting the goal to lose weight. You think about going to the gym. You think about getting a gym membership. All those things make perfect sense. But you don't think about the 4:30 meeting you have on Wednesday that always runs late. You don't think about the schedule of kids and children that get in the way of a workout routine. So what happens is that we think about the goal and the result, but we don't think about the roadblocks that we need to manage along the way. And so that's why I say it's fixable, because most of the roadblocks aren't surprising, but they are effective in keeping us from that goal achievement. So step one is think about what you want, think about why you want it, but think also about the things you have to overcome in order to get it and make it a goal that you can accomplish.
Got it. That makes sense. That's helpful because motivation is different from discipline, right? And so when we think about motivation, it's a temporary state. And there are a lot of things that motivate us to want to accomplish a goal. But what we have to shore up is, what do we do when the motivation wanes? And that's where discipline comes in.
I love that phrase, right? The difference between motivation and discipline. And so I want to unpack that a little bit from my point of view in terms of when I was on the come up in sales. One of my key motivations was to make $100,000 a year, right? Like that, I thought the world would just open up to me if I made $100,000 a year. Everything would be good, no more problems, right? Of course, not the case, but the motivation for that goal is if I made $100,000 a year, I would have enough money to start putting money away for the college education of my kids. If I made $100,000 a year, I would have the choice between public school and private school for my kids. What I did was I linked something that was a financial goal to something that was emotional. Most people aren't going to do everything it takes for a physical thing, $100,000 a year, a new car, XYZ. Some people, but not most people. But what we will do is we will fight for others. We will fight as a protector. We will fight if we're trying to make our mom or our grandmother proud. So, what we have to do in goal setting, and what I learned early on in my career, is if I attached a goal to someone that I didn't want to let down, then that motivation started to transition to discipline because I didn't want to be the weak link in my family, the weak link on my sales team, the weak link in my church. Any of the organizations I was a part of that had a specific goal we were trying to achieve, but I put other people at the center of that goal, my success rate blossomed. And so your mentioning of motivation and discipline, they work together hand in hand. But that motivation usually has to be outside of self. And then it's something that we're going to stick to, push through, and persevere through.
Makes sense. And Don, what are the steps? Right now, we're all motivated, we're pumped up, right? Based on what you just said, right? So then how do we set a goal? What are the steps?
So one of the things in terms of the steps in setting a goal, and I appreciate the way you're framing this, is one of the things that people do is we have too many goals. And so number one, we need to simplify the number of things we're focused on. And that is very, very important because if we think about, I'll just think about cable TV right now, right? There's 800 channels. But really in my life, I really frequent 8 to 10 on my favorites. That's where my focus area is. That's where I know when different things come on. I know when the different ESPN sports shows come on, or if I'm watching CNBC for business or something like that. So now bringing that thought process back to goals, step one is what are the key things you want to accomplish? Not everything you hope to accomplish in the 2024 period of time. So now we're shrinking it to 3 to 4, maybe 5 different goals. The other thing is you want those goals in areas that are highly impactful in your life. So you should have a health related goal. You should have a goal that centers around family, your relationships, right? So for 2024, one of the things that is very important to me is to continue to grow and blossom in my relationship with my wife. Having that as a goal automatically means I'm going to read different things. That means I'm going to spend time listening to different things from a podcast standpoint. That means I'm going to spend more time listening and cultivating that relationship with my wife in a deeper, more effective and more loving way. All of those things because I set that as one of my primary family goals. My financial goals, right? I want to create an environment, and I'll use again myself personally. I want to be more consistent with creating and producing high quality content to build my personal business brand. So now that I've had that set out as a goal, this podcast today, the preparation for this podcast, the planning around what we're going to do to now offer this out into the public becomes more clear because I've stated as one of my key business goals is to create more high quality, impactful content. Now, to be clear, I didn't just say more content. High quality, impactful content. So I wanted to create more information that people could move the needle. And then the thing about it is, I'll use this example. You also want to know what is going to be the business impact, the blessing, the benefit of doing that. One of the things that happened this morning is I met with a prospect for one of my businesses. And the way this prospect found me was through content I produced on LinkedIn. And this is a very successful business leader in North Carolina. Listened to a video snippet that placed on LinkedIn and gave me a jingle and wanted to understand more about multicultural marketing, wanted to understand more about what inclusive leadership is and how to implement it into his business. And because I want more quality prospects that have already researched who I am, what I do, and how I can help them, now that motivation and that discipline to create high quality content has a measurable outcome that I can start to manage and measure and predict, which is more high quality prospects. So again, back to your earlier question, Jackie, is where do people fall down and what are one of the key steps is you have to create specificity around what you want, why you want it, what are you willing to do to get it, and what is the outcome you're going to receive by doing all that hard work. Because nobody wants to work hard, do something difficult, push and persevere if the payoff isn't big enough. And so it's okay to think about the payoff in terms of what you're doing. But that's a great question. I could talk too long on that point, but hopefully that helps to break it down into how to think about setting those goals and then the why.
That's super helpful. Thank you so much. We've all heard that setbacks in goal achievement is part of the process, but it can be frustrating and disheartening when we fail. What's the conversation that you need to have with yourself when you blow it or miss the mark?
Thankfully, I have a lot of experience with this. One of the things around, and I'll give an example of a conversation I had with an emerging executive that I coach. He said, Don, it seems like you're succeeding all the time. And I said, fantastic. That's good branding and marketing. But it's not real. Anyone that has achieved any level of success that you're having a cup of coffee with will let you know that the setbacks allow you to define how big your victories are going to be. Because the setbacks force you to make a decision to quit, to coast, or to continue, right, with that winning vigor. It forces a decision. And it forces a decision when you're at a little bit of a weakened state. It forces a decision when you're at your not your lowest, but at a lower point. And so what I've had to do when I've hit setbacks, and I've had plenty of them, is I have always been able to pivot from those setbacks when the reason I was doing something was stronger than the pain that I felt. And so it comes back to that motivation, it comes back to that discipline, it comes back to that outcome. When that dream, that outcome is singularly focused and powerful enough, then the setbacks are a learning experience. When the dream is small, the setbacks are a reason to stop, a reason to quit, a reason to make excuses. And so to me, it really is about the attitude and the mindset, right, of a winner, the mindset of a champion. If we think about any of the movies that are tops in the world, The Godfather or the Jason Bourne series or Star Wars or any movie where there is a villain and a victor, right? And there's something that you have to overcome. Well, Luke Skywalker didn't have initially an absence of fear, right? It was really the fear that drove him to create the learning to then figure out how they were going to defeat Darth Vader. But one of the things that's really important in goal achievement is Luke Skywalker had Yoda. He had a mentor. And a lot of times people try to do big things on their own when the reality is that mentor, that coach, that manager, that leader that cares for you, cares for the goal, but cares enough about you to tell you the truth about where you are and what you're doing and how you're progressing. That outside validation, that external confirmation that you're on the right track, even though you're having a moment where you misstepped, is one of the most powerful things in goal achievement. Because we all need someone that believes in us no matter what. We all need someone that's going to give us that little extra point of view when we need it to get back on the bike again, to get back on the saddle again. And so I think mentorship is as critical as any other component to goal achievement. If we didn't have blind spots, we wouldn't need a mentor. If we didn't have peaks and valleys in our attitude, we wouldn't need a coach. If we had all the answers, we'd already be achieving all our goals and dreams. So I'm a big fan of folks that employ and work with mentorship and coaches because they're a big help in pushing through those pivot points that we all have.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't know that I necessarily agree with your comparing The Godfather and Jason Bourne in the same space, but I do respect that, the mentorship piece, because even The Godfather had a consigliere, right? So you have that person that you need, or set of people that you need to consult with. So many of us keep our goals to ourselves. Tell us more about the value of sharing goals, not only with a mentor, but with other people in our lives that can support us. Who are those people that we need to share our goals with? So a mentor is one, or there are others?
So I'm going to start that conversation with who you shouldn't share your goals with,
Mm.
right? Because that is super important. People that are just casual observers of who you are and what you do, they don't need to know the deep focus of your goals. A lot of times we tell goals to false friends. And unfortunately, everyone, and I'll repeat this, but that metaphor of crabs in a bucket, right? There's a lot of people out there that talk a good game, but they're really not for you. They're not supporting you. They're not adding energy to you, to your life, right? Keep it simple with those folks. Check on them, help them, right? Because I don't need negative energy, even from well-meaning people. Are you sure you can accomplish that? Is that the right thing you should be thinking about? Starting a new business, is this the right time to start a business, but you've got a good job? Why would you need a house that big? Right? It sounds pleasant, but that's negative information going into your psyche for something that you want for you, your family, and that you're willing to work for. As long as it's honest, moral, and legal, whatever your goals are your goals. And so I've not been interested in the polite naysayer. And so now flipping it to who you should share your goals with, people that are cheering for you no matter what. Mentors, colleagues, people that you know that are a little bit further financially, business wise, maybe than you are. Because what they're going to do, and this is super powerful, right? If I talk to my mentor, Grant Willard, and I talk to him about a goal that I have in business, he not only cheers for me, he immediately starts to go through his mental Rolodex of who can help me with that goal. When you're talking to people that are achievers like you are, like you want to be, when you tell them what your goals are, they immediately go into support mode. Number one, congratulations, that's a worthy goal. Let me know how I can help. Number two, congratulations, that's a worthy goal. Here's something I think you should read. Congratulations, that's a worthy goal. Here's somebody I think you should talk to. They immediately go into an action mode of how to help and support and reinforce what you're doing. And those are the types of people that I want to know more in detail of what I'm doing. There's a gentleman who is really well known in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. His name is Jack Clayton. He's an executive at Town Bank. And not only do we serve on a few boards together, I consider Jack a friend, right? I consider Jack somebody that not only I look up to business wise, amazing family, strong leader in his own right, wonderful relationship with his wife, kids doing great, all the things as a young executive that I would aspire to become. I see so many of those qualities in Jack. And before I got on this podcast, he sent me a quick note. He said, Happy New Year. He said, we need to get lunch and just kick off our relationship for the new year and see how we can be a help to each other. And so we got some times back together and different things. And here's the number one thing I know about Jack Clayton. When I talk to Jack about something I want to get done, he's one of those people that goes into action of how to help me achieve it while he's cheering me along the way. I talked to another friend of mine, and this gets into goal achievement, but how to leverage your network, right? Another person that I talked to about my 3 to 5 year goals is my lawyer, James Forrest. James is a master networker, phenomenal entrepreneur, recently sold his law firm to a firm called Michael Best, doing amazing. James and I sat down, had a cup of coffee, and he said, Don, he said, you just sold a business. He said, you're integrating that business, WPO, all this good stuff. He said, tell me what you're trying to do the next couple of years. And I was very transparent with a couple of the goals. And James, right at that moment, said, I can help with that. And over the weekend, he sent me an email with 3 to 4 people to talk to that are experts in one of the spaces I want to learn more about. And he sewed into me. So one of the things where people fall down in goal achievement is they're telling the wrong people. So they're doing it more on their own. And worse than that, they're swimming upstream because they're swimming against that polite negativity. Whereas when I'm setting a goal, I have the wind behind me because I'm working with and around and surrounded by people that only want to help me and give me cheat codes and help move it through. So again, wonderful thought process on the question. And I'm very blessed in that as I've become a stronger entrepreneur, a better business leader, I've also realized that there are a bunch of people that really want to see me succeed. And that networking aspect, that real true partnership where I can give something to them of value, they give something to me. It's something that's really valuable in goal achievement in terms of who you tell and who you share with.
That's great, Don. Taking just a quick aside, for those of us who are listening to this episode and saying, I don't have people like that in my life or enough people like that in my life, how do you find those people and get those people to want to spend time with you?
Jackie, thanks so much for asking that in that way. I'll circle back to 25 years ago because that's where I had a lot of big ideas, super hopeful about my business prospects, but I didn't have a Rolodex full of game changers willing to support me. And I'm looking right, there's a box right behind my desk, and it's full of books. And one of the things that we all can do, and I used to read about an hour a day on goal achievement, on networking, on sales, whatever it is you want to do. There's a book, there's a podcast, there's a newsletter that can give you the voice of the leader that you've not met yet, but that you need in your life. And so I had to use that to my advantage. The second thing that was important is early in my sales career, I used and leveraged my clients and my prospects as mini mentors. So let me give you an example. Let's say I have a 30-minute sales presentation with a new prospect, and I finally get to a business executive. I would humbly say, John, Joanne, if we conclude our business in 25 minutes instead of 30, can I use the final 5 minutes to ask you a few questions about how you were able to be successful in your business? I never had anyone turn me down. So I was able to grow my network, grow my knowledge, grow my confidence because I was leveraging the wisdom of people that were already succeeding in areas that I wasn't. The thing, Jackie, that I had to do before I had that Rolodex is I had to be bold enough, confident enough, and humble enough to ask for help. But here's what I found. The majority of successful people at any level are looking for people to share information. And what a compliment you give to someone when you ask them to share their knowledge about how they were successful. I just think that is a cheat code of how to do it. The second thing that I would share in terms of now things that I did on the rise when I didn't have that Rolodex. I talked about the books. I talked about some of the networking with prospects and different things. The other thing that is really, really important is your relationships in your current roles at work. The faster I understood that my manager and my manager's manager, the executives at companies that I worked with and partnered with, succeeded by my success, the less apprehensive I became about asking for that additional cup of coffee, that additional support for a presentation or proposal, or things that I needed. Most people don't have great relationships at work, not because people don't want to support you, but because we don't ask for what we need. And so again, it's a little bit of courage, it's a little bit of confidence. But if you ask 10 people for that kind of support, even if only 3 out of 10 say yes, that's 3 more people that can help you drive towards your goals.
Great advice. Don, you mentioned when you were younger having big goals, right, and desire to achieve them. Can you share a big goal that you had for yourself and what was the path to achieving it?
So, one of the things that was really important to me, and I'll use one of my sales goals, is that I wanted to be $1 million sales professional. That was where I was going to raise my income to the heights that I thought made sense. I would have to learn and interact with executives in order to create a sales profile to where I could sell enough technology to get into that multi-million-dollar sales space. And it forced me to break those goals down into activities and milestones. And so when you think about selling $1 million of anything, or building your business from zero to $1 million in revenue, right? One of the things that I am working with a gentleman right now who's taken his business from zero to $500,000, and this year he wants to go from $500,000 to $1 million. Is you want to break that down into the activities you need to do each day to make that happen. And for me, it was talking to 10 prospects a day, right? Maybe it's sending email today, different things like that. But my point is the number. And then at the end of a week, that meant I interacted with 50 prospects. After interacting with 50 prospects, here's what happens. You get really good at describing who you are, what you do, and why your business or your service is impactful for clients because you are talking about it every day. Number two, you become an expert in handling objections. Number three, you become immune to no's. They don't hurt you anymore. And number four, you understand that at the end of that week, you're always going to have some level of success because you deserved it. You did enough work to deserve a good outcome that week. And if you can put together a good week at work, whether it's sales, whether it's writing content, blogs, whether if you are a computer programmer, whether you are an artist, you have to know how much time you've got to put in each day to develop the discipline needed to be excellent, because ultimately people want to be in business with people who are excellent. So again, when I was building my initial goals, I made sure that I understood the work required, the knowledge required, and the skills required for me to achieve it. And then I really worked hard at developing those 3 elements.
That's great. Now, we've talked about big goals. Should we be setting realistic goals or should we be setting big goals, right? How big a goal is too big?
Yeah, how big a goal is too big? I can't speak to that. But what I will tell you is that momentum matters. And I do believe in the concept of crawl, walk, run. I think it is very important to set some goals that are reasonable, achievable, so you get used to winning, so that you get used to setting a goal and achieving it. Because a lot of there's the mental model that we're trying to program and build that success mindset strengthens based on successes. How you view yourself, the way that you carry yourself, how you sit up straight, how you look someone in the eye. All those things are easier and more prevalent when you're succeeding, right, in your daily work. So I think a percentage of your goals should be things that you can knock off, check off the checklist each week. Another segment of your goals should be stretch goals. They're not your wild, ambitious goals, but they're more than you can do if you're coasting. You've got to learn something new. You've got to talk to more people, and you stretch because the value of stretching is significant, right? It's whether or not you are going to help launch a new product for your organization, whether you're going to start a new company and building that first business plan. The what is not as critical. That's going to be more on an individual element. The key is it's got to be a goal that you can't do with your current work ethic. You can't do with your current knowledge. You can't do with your current skill. So that means you've got to change and grow and stretch in order to grow into the level of that goal. Here's what will happen. And I think about this with my latest venture, the diversity movement, where 3 years ago we started a diversity, equity, and inclusion business from scratch during a pandemic. Our first goal, we have over 150 clients now. We're a multi-million-dollar business now. We were just acquired by a larger organization. But 4 years ago, we had nothing but a goal and a dream and some ambitious things we wanted to accomplish. So the goal was to get 10 clients and make them happy. And once we achieved getting 10 clients, getting those 10 clients to be not only happy with what we're doing, but to re-up with us, to continue working with us. We then said, wait a minute, if we can get 10, we can get 20. If we can get 20, we can get 40. If we can get 40, we can get 100. And now all of a sudden, the mental model, the math, was so much easier to do because it was built upon a success that we had a hand in creating. And so I'm very, very high on folks in stair-stepping their goals. We didn't pull our small but ambitious team together 4 years ago and say, we're going to get 200 customers, get national awards. I'm going to be Entrepreneur of the Year. We're going to have top 10 podcasts on our system, and we're going to get sold for multi-millions of dollars. That was not our initial goal. Our initial goal was 10 customers and make them happy. Our initial goal was to launch one product, right? Diversity Beyond the Checkbox, which is a 5-module course. And we did those two big things that bolstered our confidence to then be able to raise the level of our goals. But we were doing it based on momentum we created with something that we were able to do and achieve.
That's great. And, so what I'm hearing, and the reason why I ask this is so many of us that have these big goals, have people in our lives, to your earlier point, that says, why don't you set a more realistic goal, right? So what I'm hearing from you is you can achieve big goals as long as you have incremental goals and incorporate stretch goals to get to that big outcome.
That's exactly right. And I also think it's, to expand on what you're describing, that incremental process allows you to build confidence and courage along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like it. Right? It's not, I don't necessarily like the word reasonable. That's fine. People use whatever word they want.
Mm-hmm.
Realistic, right? But the focus area is you're building confidence and courage each milestone you hit. And then you naturally start to think and grow bigger. The other thing that is very cool, you're typically not going to have goals significantly bigger than the people you spend time around. So you have to change your peer group. And that's one of the big things that's tough for people earlier in their careers. You get used to folks that are at your level, have a similar thought process to you because it's not as challenging. It's easy. I really enjoy spending time with people that stretch me, that are doing amazing things, right? And it doesn't matter what the field of endeavor is, right? I was talking to somebody the other day that is in the medical field and runs a medical practice with 400 employees, doing some very, very significant work in the medical field. He still has leadership goals, leadership issues, how to recruit. He has all of the business items. It just happens to be in the medical field. But what respect I have for what that organization does, the lives that they change and save, right? And so the thing that I want to make this point is that it's also important and powerful when you achieve goals and it has an impact for you, which is phenomenal, but it has an impact on other people in a positive way. And when you can intertwine those things together, right, your chances of winning increase, right, because you're just not going to quit. With the diversity movement, millions of people around the globe have accessed our content and are better off in their work experience because we created a business that productized the DEI journey. Knowing that we're having a positive impact on the world makes the tough days more bearable. Doesn't make them go away. Doesn't mean we eliminate challenges. It doesn't mean there's still not a high percentage of people in the world that are DEI this, woke this, whatever. It just means when we focus on the fact that there are thousands of people that are better off because we decided to pursue a business in this lane and do it with excellence, it allows those naysayers to have less impact. And I think that's super important in terms of people choosing what they want to do and what they want to be, because that emotional pull is so great. And the last thing I'll say on kind of that motivation piece, and if everyone would reflect on somebody in their life that they just don't want to let down, one of those people for me is my granny. And so when I think about the things that she had to overcome raising a family in the Deep South to help create the opportunities, the privilege, the advantages that I have, thinking about that forced me to be responsible for my outcomes, even though, yes, the world is not built for an African American male to succeed. There are some systemic things that are built to hold me back. Yes, there's chaos in the world, and I decided to be in the DEI business the last 4 to 5 years, right? And there's a lot of upstream there. Yes, there's a crazy economy. Yes, we just came out of a pandemic. There's hundreds of reasons of why not to succeed. But I needed to find the 5 reasons to win because I want my granny to be proud of me. So that mental model doesn't make me naive that the world's just, a path full of roses. It just means that because my motivation, and I encourage people to tie their motivation to people they don't want to let down, that is stronger than your obstacles. That will be stronger than your adversaries. And that's something that really helps from a goal achievement mindset. There's plenty of books on SMART goals. Write you down. You don't need fuzzy goals. You need to have them measurable. All that stuff's good and right. What we're talking about today is the mental model of how to achieve those goals through duress, achieve those goals through the ups and downs of life, achieve those goals through personal, relational, health challenges, all the things that we all face because life be lifing. And none of us are going to get through this thing unscathed. So we have to help people understand that in addition to all of those fundamentals, we need to develop that mental toughness and the why we're doing something so we'll persevere when it gets hard.
And Don, do you think goal achievement is more about the right mindset or the right process, and why?
I have a strong perspective that's the right mindset. You can have a great process, the wrong mental model, right, and make that process look bad. If you have the right mindset, you will figure it out. If you have the right mindset, you will find the people that you need to be with you, and you won't overindulge in the emotional baggage of the people that you need to step away from. The mental model is the thing that separates the winners from the others. That ability to stay enthusiastic, that ability to stay enthusiastic in the midst of setbacks. And one of the things, and I'll say, for me, 2023 was best year, worst year. So in best case, sold a business. In best case, created a multi-million dollar business. In best case, tons of different awards and recognition. And then there were some very significant health challenges that went on in my family and my dad in particular that were really tough. There were some very significant family things that I've had to work through that were very tough. And one of the reasons that I'm proud of 2023 is not simply because of the good things that other people can see, but because I was able to push through to get to that goodness through a lot of difficulty. And most of us are more on the side of working through some difficulty than just having a fully paved road to achieve our dreams. And so I want to encourage those of us those that are listening, that your challenges, the valleys that you're in today, are temporary if you keep your eye on that ultimate prize and remember who you're fighting and driving forward for. And once I understood that things were temporary, it made it easier to weather. It didn't make it easy. It made it easier to weather. And I think, for me, 2023 was a very humbling year in many ways because many of the things that I had to work on were self-inflicted. Then you have things that were outside of your control. And then you have things that you did well. But you can't allow your successes to camouflage the things that you still need to improve, because your ability to improve and push through duress is where you become the champion. The pats on the back is not where you become the champion. It is where you really humble yourself and say, this is an area of deficiency that I need to work on, get better and improve, and then get to doing it. Right? It's one thing to admit it. And a lot of people, I'm so sorry, I made this mistake or that mistake. That's fine. Right? You have to seek forgiveness if you wrong someone. You have to pick the ball back up if you need to do something better for your manager, your leader at work. All that's fine. The words are fine. But the words have to be followed by that action and that intentional follow-up so that you don't carry those negative impacts into the next year, into the next month, into the next decade. And so 2023 was a tremendous learning opportunity for me in terms of goal achievement personally. And I think a lot of it can apply to others.
That's great advice, and I appreciate that, Don. As we begin to close up this topic, what do you want to leave your listeners with around goal achievement?
The language of how you talk about winning and losing and your goals is super important. You'll notice that we are very intentional to not talk about goal setting standalone in this podcast. We're talking about the lessons, the mental model, the work, the motivation for goal achievement. So how you talk about what you're doing, who you talk about it with, all those things matter. So the thing I would leave you with is this. If your goals are big enough, you can't do it alone. Find that mentor, that coach, that sponsor at work, that colleague. And then that final thought, if you don't have access to the people you need right now, books, podcasts, reach out to me on LinkedIn, give me a little overview of what you're trying to accomplish. I read a lot. I have access to a lot of really bright people and can help curate information that would be useful for you at the point you are in your career and based on your goals. And so for me, in closing, I think that it's really, really important that we take that personal responsibility for goal achievement. We know that there are going to be obstacles. We know there are going to be adversarial situations. But if we keep that personal responsibility, then it's going to make it easier for us to pivot and tweak because we're responsible for the changes we need to make to achieve the goals that are going to make our family proud, create the income that we want, and live the life that we deserve.
Thanks, Don. This has been informative and inspiring. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on High Octane Leadership with Donald Thompson. Today's episode is a step in our collective journey towards leadership excellence. Remember, every story we share and every insight we gain is a piece in the puzzle of our leadership journey. For more insight and detail, hit the subscribe button so that we can stay connected. For deeper information and more episodes, go to donaldthompson.com. Continue to lead with vision and purpose, and until we meet again, embrace your role as a high-octane leader in the ever-evolving world of business.